Condensation on a window. Typically, we're going to see these on higher efficiency windows, and so they're going to be either double or triple pane. Most of the time, they're going to be filled with a gas called argon, and sometimes if we lose that seal, then air gets in there. We start getting that draft that goes through there. Now, when air starts entering and is able to pass through this, and we don't allow it to vent out the moisture, that's when this condensation starts occurring. I've been fooled a few times where windows were just really dirty, and I thought that it was, the seals were blown. And then when I went outside and just rubbed the window, all of a sudden everything was clean. All right. So if it's condensation that's between the layers, you can't wipe that clean. All right. But if it's a dirty window, you can. So take the time and the energy just to verify that it's not, so we don't look bad to our clients by calling out a defect that isn't there. It seems like we're always quick to be judged, so we want to be as accurate as possible. All right. Now, they have solutions for this. It doesn't always mean replacing the glass. A typical window is, even a double pane window is like an R3 or R4. So it's not like they provide that much resistance to the flow of heat in the first place. So there is a process, and I think it's rather pricey, but it's half the cost of replacing the window. They actually drill a hole inside and outside of the window, one high, one low, and they allow air to flow through. And actually it's designed to let the air leave the inside of the house, go through the window, and then exit up high to the out. So hot air is going to rise, and it removes the moisture via convection. All right. These have a pretty high success rate. So the companies that go ahead and install these, they charge roughly half the cost of the window to put these vents into the window. And then if it doesn't work, then they give you half that cost to the replacement window. So you just pay the other half. So you can roll the dice and get a clear window and pay half of it. And if it doesn't work, then you only pay the second half. I don't see that as a bad option. You cut the cost on replacing the windows in half. All right, tempered glass, and tempered glass needs to be installed in a few different areas. All right. Sometimes we use this word interchangeably with safety glass, and I want you to realize they're different. Okay. First of all, tempered is also known as annealed. All right, or where they're going to do some sort of heat treatment to the glass itself. They're going to make it harder and stronger. When it fails or when it breaks, it's going to shatter in a bunch of small little pieces. All right. I remember the movie Ghost one year, and at the very end, the glass broke, but it wasn't tempered, and then you had that big shard of glass that came down, and good quality kill, by the way. Glass goes through the chest and into the heart, and the bad guy's dead. And then, of course, the bad demon people took him away. That was not tempered, all right? But glass that's tempered, and they don't really do this too much anymore. But usually we're going to see a little label in the corner of the glass. I want you to know where it's supposed to be. And then also I'd like you to do a little Google searching. Supposedly there's a way with cell phones that you could put the cell phone on the opposite side of the glass. And I haven't tried it. I just did a quick YouTube on it, and I haven't really followed up on it, but now I want to learn more on it. And there's a way of using something with your phone that you're able to look through it, and if it does a certain thing, that's a good way to tell that it's tempered glass. All right. For me, I want you to know where the tempered glass needs to be. All right. So basically, it's going to be in any area where we're worried about somebody falling through this window. All right. And the rules have changed. They have become more and more lenient on where tempered glass needs to be. Now, I'm not sure if they change the rules in the state exam when you take it or not. So that I can't answer, and I can only share with what I know at the time and what I know of the questions now. All right. So any window that's bigger than 9 square feet, all right, any piece of glass that's bigger than 9 square feet, that has to be tempered glass. Any glass that's going to be bigger than 9 square inches that's inside of a door, that also has to be tempered glass. Now, when I say tempered glass, I want to use that interchangeably with safety glass. All right. So, for example, they make glass that has a piece of plastic in between 2 layers of glass. That's safety glass. All right. They'll put metal in between, so you see metal cross bracing in between pieces of glass. That's safety glass as well. So, just like our front car windshield, that has that plastic in there. So when a rock hits it, it'll shatter, but it won't bust through. All right. I'm using those interchangeably. They're going to be used for the same. Side lights. All right. So it doesn't have to be an entry door. Side lights of any door. So if I have a light or a window on the side of a door, that is supposed to be tempered glass. Transoms, however, so above the door, do not have to be tempered glass. All right. Now this one that says 18 inches to the floor, I think that goes over the 9. That has to go into. Yeah, that's not always true on that one, where that has to be tempered glass. They've been changing a lot of those rules on there, and it's multiple things that fall into place. Storm doors, because that's bigger than the 9 square inches. This patio door that we're looking at here is bigger than 9 square inches. Any window that's inside of a bathroom where somebody can slip from a shower. And let me be clear on that. Any window that's in a bathtub area or a shower area. So if you have a separate room where it's only a toilet and a sink, that does not require tempered glass. All right. So here we're down to the floor. We're more than 9 square feet, which is 3 feet by 3 feet. All these panels should be tempered. This is a side light. This should be tempered glass because it's next to the window. This is more than 9 square inches inside of a movable door. I do believe this was a garage door, so that should be tempered glass. More than 9 square inches in the door, even though it's inside, also at the bottom of the stairs. Those should be tempered glass. Same thing, clearances to the ground, plus the size of the window. All those should be tempered glass. We're going to get into guardrails and decks and stuff in a little bit, but I want you to just plant the seed in the brain. We're going to be thinking of 30 inches as a fall potential. Anything over 30 inches is going to require a guardrail to protect people from falling. So again, 18 inches to the floor, larger than 9 square feet. This 3 inch by 3 inch or 3 inch sphere. So actually, so we need something like that. So that's too big. That should be tempered. Now this window is close to the door, but it's not right next to the door, so it's not a side light. So that one does not need to be tempered unless it's too big or that's another door, and it may be. This transom up overhead does not have to be tempered glass. Anything less than 60 inches. So if this window was higher than 5 feet going like this, that would not have to be tempered. But if we're less than 5 feet, which is 60 inches, now this, and it's also inside of a tub, that does need to be tempered glass. Second floor windows that are up high, anything less than 18 inches, there should be some sort of fall protection there as well. Especially if there's a door, you should be limited by how much that door can open or that window can open, especially if there's kids involved in this stuff. So hardware is pretty easy to do. Check to see if it's there, if it's working, if it's locked, rusted, damaged. People want to secure their homes. All right. Means of egress, we're going to talk about some numbers that you have to remember. I've been in the fire service since 1980, and I retired recently. And I can assure you this, that if I needed to get into that house, I was equipped with the tools and equipment to be able to get through that window. And it really wouldn't slow me down that much at all. It would probably take me about 30 seconds to get through it, and I could definitely get it open. All right. So I'm not too aggressive when it comes to egress situations when you're putting bars on windows. People put bars on windows not because they're afraid of burning up in their house, they're afraid of other people coming in and harming them. So your clients are going to have to weigh what's more important to them, whether it's getting out of the property in case of an emergency or preventing the bad guys from coming into the property. All right. And different methods from doing it. But let them know there are rules, there are things that should be there. Another thing to share with somebody is they're going to sell this house sooner or later. And depending on the market, somebody might say, well, getting out in case of a fire is more important to me than worrying about bad people coming in. So having the proper egress windows in there is kind of an important thing. So we do need a second means of egress from every bedroom and living space. So we can have a doorway, so if I have a staircase going upstairs and another doorway going to the outside, that'll suffice. If I use a window, then I need to have a few different rules on the windows, and I think our next slide gives those here. So if you don't know these offhand, I'm going to encourage you to please take a moment, grab a pen and paper, and start writing these things down, all right? So the minimum size opening of a removable window is 5.7 square feet, all right? I need you to know that number, 5.7 square feet. You will see that number again. The minimum height is 24 inches. The minimum width of the opening is 20 inches, all right? But let's just, for ease of numbers, let's say that was 24. 24 by 24 is 4 square feet. That doesn't equal 5.7, all right? So I can't have an opening 24 by 20. That's not, just because I satisfy those two requirements, I still have to satisfy the 5.7. Then the height from the floor is another important number. Our maximum number is 44 inches. And then even from that, if I get into the window and now I'm in a window well and getting out of that 44 inches is there again. Now I could be higher than 44 inches. There's ways around it. But in order, if this is my egress window, I have to have a permanently installed staircase that will get me up to, so they'll have to build a piece of concrete. They're not talking about wood frame or anything else like that. It has to be permanently installed into the structure so somebody can't remove it, and to get them up and over. But either way, this bedroom windows here, maybe it was acceptable at the time and it doesn't have to be upgraded today. I get that. But nonetheless, it doesn't meet the 5.7, doesn't get us our 44 square inches. We'll photograph this and throw that in our report. Sometimes we'll throw tape measures on it, but that's kind of rare. All right. I'm not too worried also about means of egress and putting keyed locks on the inside. I get it. Again, we're going to go back to some people, it's more important to be secure than it is to be able to escape. And they'll just have it where somebody can break the window next to it, reach around, unlock the door by hand, and they're good. Double keyed locks like that prevent this, all right? However, it is a hazard. If somebody does get hurt and we didn't tell them and warn them about it, now all that onus comes up to us. So developing a written paragraph, because you are going to run into this, and coming up with your opinions, not a bad idea. Get it pre-written. That way you're just taking a picture, putting it in the right section, clicking a button, and move along. All right. Basements with habitable spaces, they have to have at least one openable emergency escape window. Once I start compartmentizing that basement, and each bedroom in that basement then also has to have an additional emergency egress in there. All right. Vegetation, we talked about this with the ivy and stuff before. I'm mostly worried about um, how it impacts the building. All right. So I don't really care about trees that are in the backyard per se, but if I got limbs that are overhanging the house, that means I got roots pushing up against the house as well. If I got tree branches that are rubbing on the roof, I'm damaging my roof. If I got on the ivy growing on the walls, there's a chance that an ivy could start coming inside. All right, all that stuff, just helps insects, termites, mice, any other undesirables. Boy, I like that word a lot. Any other things that enter the house that we just don't want there, plain and simple. So ivy growth, I mentioned it before, not a big fan of it. But again, it's going to be our clients. I let them know that it's going to grow into the brick and it's probably going to find its way through any openings up top. All right. Stuff that's not maintained and cut, we don't know what's underneath there. And, so anything that's overgrowth, I kind of take a picture of that, throw it in the report. Also, as a disclaimer, all right, there's parts of this siding I can't see. If somebody goes in here and cuts it, they're going to be able to see it. And, so taking a lot of pictures and what I like to refer to as CYA pictures isn't really a bad thing. And cover your assets is what CYA stands for. And just making sure that you could see, like this picture here, I can't tell you what's going on underneath there. I'm not going to chop this stuff away and move it away. We ask for everything to be clear. If somebody wants to cut it away and clear it up, and they want to pay me to come back here and look at it again, I will. I'm more than happy to. But I didn't leave this like this, so I shouldn't be punished for my time in business by doing something for free. My client didn't leave it like this. They shouldn't be punished. This stuff should be maintained if you're going to be selling a home. The word swaled, I would like you to know what this is. Anytime I have a lot that's sloping towards the house, I need to redirect that water away. So what we do with the swale is we're going to make a low-lying area. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. We're going to make a low-lying area where water is going to come down here and then be channeled around and away from the house. All right. Typically, the lowest area or the lowest point is going to be about 10 feet away from the house, but we want the earth to go down and then back up again. And where it goes down and up, that's called the swale. I do want you to memorize these numbers. The slope on permeable soil needs to be 1 in 12. So 1 inch drop for every 12 inches, and that's our typical grading. All right. Typically, a minimum that we want to see is going to be 6 inches over 10 feet. When you're dealing in the city of Chicago and some of the park communities around it, we're flat. There is no slope. That's just the way it is. And there's nobody who's going to be building anything up or taking it down. So you got to kind of start thinking how it's going to affect things. All right. Now, I don't want it sloping towards the house either. And then if I think water is going to be affecting the house, go inside and see if you can prove it with any signs of past damage that's happened there. But permeable means that the ground will soak up the water. All right. I want you to remember the 1 in 12. And I also want you to remember at least 6 inches over a 10-foot span. And I get it. 1 in 12 would really be 12 inches over a 10-foot span, right? 1 in 12. Yeah, 12 inches over a 10-foot span. Permeable, non-permeable. So permeable, water goes into it. Non-permeable will be our concrete, our asphalt. All right, something where water's not going to soak into the earth. Those could be flatter. All right, so it's 1 inch for every 4 feet, or 1 in 48, and let that water slope away that way. I would like you to remember both those sets of numbers. Different types of waterproofing. Just about every house, they're going to spray the outside concrete with tar, and that's going to be our waterproofing membrane. And that's designed for osmosis. That's designed to stop the vapor spread of the moisture going through the concrete. All right. Once the concrete cracks, that's not going to stop everything. Sometimes you'll see them put a dimple board on the outside. Probably the best thing to do. All right. So even if I get a crack in my foundation, as the water wants to work its way into the foundation, it's going to hit that dimple board, and then it's going to go straight down to the drain tile around the outside. And if everything is working from there, it's going to find its way to the sump pit and then be pumped away from the building again. All right. We're not always going to know that exists in there. So, but I'd like you to know there's different options for waterproofing. And they can also install these things afterwards. You'll find companies, and it's amazing, the people that they have to hand dig these foundations, and they just get in there and they go all the way down to that footing. I'm surprised by how fast they make this thing work. It's unbelievable. And then they'll put the dimple board back in there, fill it all back up in there, and that just helps, keep the water from entering the basement. It's an option, all right? You'll see different types of repairs. Sometimes when they're done by the outside, they'll dig a hole down where the crack is. I forgot what it was called. Some benzite or benzonite, I think it is, but it's a powder that gets poured into this hole where this crack is, and then that powder levels out, and the moisture that gets in there, it solidifies and creates a watertight membrane that's right up next to that crack, and they have very good success with it. I'm a big fan with sealing these cracks from the outside. Now, injected epoxy, even though this is done from the inside, this also has a very high success rate on it. Typically, they're going to cut the cracks, and they're only going to do this where water's coming in. So they're going to gouge the crack and get them a little bit wider so that they can, that the epoxy will go ahead and go all the way through the crack and work its way to the outside. Now, how this is installed, they take these little funnels, little cups with ports on them, and then they're going to shmooey the ports on here, and that's what we're looking at, these items right here. And so then they'll shmooey around those, shmooey around this one, and then they're going to go ahead and make it straight and put the shmooey on the finish coat. And this stuff smells really bad, and then they're going to take a break, and they're going to let this stuff harden up and adhere and dry to the wall. Then they're going to go down to the bottom one, and they're going to put a hydraulic pump on there with more epoxy, and they're going to start pumping that into the lowest one. And they're going to fill up that crack, and it's going to go all the way through and push out, and then it's going to keep building up in level until it comes out this next one. Once it starts coming out this one, they disconnect from the bottom one and put a cap on it. Then they put their machine on this one and keep filling it up till it comes out of the next one, and the next one, and so forth, until they're all the way at the top. All right. This way you fill up that crack completely from beginning all the way through with the injected epoxy. They usually guarantee these things for the life of ownership of the home. So if we get a crack that came back after this was done, our house again is still moving, and we need to stop that movement from happening. All right. Sometimes these cracks do happen, especially in newer construction. You get a bigger wall, and you get a big area that's shrinking, and it cracks. And if we get water stains that are coming inside, we want to go ahead and put injected epoxy to get in there. It has a good high success rate again. All right, walk downs, outdoor staircases. These are just problematic. I don't know what else to say. These drains down here, they get clogged. We really don't want to have traps in those, so there should be just a straight angle, and there should be another floor drain right inside that door, and that one is trapped. So we really don't want to have traps outside where water could freeze and become damaged and come in there. But more so I'm worried about leaves, debris, paper, garbage, whatever, clogging up this drain, and then this whole thing filling up, and water's going to come through the door. So look for signs of rotted doors, damage around the threshold, see carpeting if they have it in the basement. Look for items where things like this have happened in the past. All right. Retaining walls, they need to be, straight up and down. I don't know what much more to say. They're designed to hold the earth back. And now I get it. This one is designed where it's leaning into the earth a little bit. But I think you could see that from the front that it's all going to be done, that's how it's designed to be. Step up and step forward. I would like you to know a couple of words on this. One of them is going to be a tieback, and then the next word is going to be a dead man. So on this slide here, this is what our tieback is, and then think of this as more of a T, and I think the next slide shows it better. Yeah. So here's our tieback, and then we have a T that goes across that tieback, and that's called the dead man, and that keeps everything from coming forward. Now, when they put the backfill back in here, that's all loose dirt. All right, we'll go back to the other one, same thing. That's all loose dirt. I got to let that water drain out. This is going to fill up with water in here. One of the clues that we have a problem is when we get a sudden drop off right at the top here. That means I'm getting a lot of water that's sitting in here, and it drops in there. Now, somebody could have filled it back up again, so we're not going to be able to see it. But if you do see it, that's usually the cause of it. All right. When it's straight across like this one, it's at the same height. I'm not saying it's 100% going to be okay, but at least it doesn't give you the clue that the problem is there. All right. And then, yeah, it happens. They do get catastrophic when they fail. And if you don't have tie bags in there or any dead mans in there, the next thing is the earth is going to want to slide and move. All right. So these are the holes that I was talking about. So any water that gets in there, we're giving that water away to get out. Plain and simple. There's a domino effect that I like to refer to it. When is a wall leaning too much, and now that wall is unstable and unsafe? When do we shrug our shoulders and say monitor it, and when do we say okay, it's bad? All right, it needs to be fixed. The answer is 1/3. All right. So if I take, it's 1/3 whatever the width is. So let's just assume this is 8 inches. I might round up to 9 inches. If I take a plumb bob and I go straight down with this, if I make it past the 1/3 mark, then it's too far. It's at its tipping point. If it's past that, it's beyond its tipping point. This retaining wall should either be removed and repaired, or should be, put back in its upright position, and blocked back into place so that it can do what it can do. But right now, it's failed as far as I'm concerned. And the next step is just toppling over, and then somebody's going to have to pay to repair it. These are the items that I don't like to wait until it's failed. This has already gone too far, and it just needs to be redone. So, window wells, keep the earth away. We also use them to be able to see out the windows themselves, and we need them for egress as well. So metal, wood, concrete, whatever they are, we're going to keep them in there. If we use them for egress, then 9 square feet is our magic number. However we get to it, typically we're going to want to be 3 feet out. Many times you see that's actually less than the 3 feet out. If this climbing out is 44 inches or more, more than 44 inches, then we need to have a permanently installed ladder in there. Right? We also want to be able to drain those window wells. So there should be a perforated pipe that goes down to our drain tile. And I'm a big fan of putting caps on these things too. All right. So rusting, deterioration, bulging, any sort of damage, look for the water, debris in there. Everything that we could come with it. So this is a good window well. We're bigger than our 3 foot by 3 foot. We still have some debris in the bottom up on there. We don't have a cap or a lid on it. I would like to see that. I like these plastic ones that have the metal on it. They market and sell those with people standing on them. And I've stood on them, and I'm a pretty big guy, and I felt pretty comfortable on them. So I like them. And then to release them, they're not that hard or not that heavy, so you can get rid of them. And again, this ladder, that can't be just hanging there. That has to be bolted to the window well. We can't take a chance of that removing it. You need to make up your own mind when it comes to security bars and getting in and out of it. these are the panic buttons, and really they should be down on the floor, not at this level here. So in case you're in a smoke-filled room, you can crawl to it and hit the button. But nonetheless, your clients are going to have to make that choice what's more important to them. So I make it a habit to pop out the caps on these drainage. I usually open up the window, make sure it's completely removable, pop out the cap, and I like to eyeball all the way down there. That should be free and clear of any debris. And stones, rocks, I should be able to see the drain tile that goes around the perimeter of the house. And hopefully we won't have any water sitting there. If it's filled up with water, that means we got a collapse or a clog somewhere, and we need to bring that to our client's attention as well. All right.